Most of Stott's writings are on the Bible, on preaching, and on evangelism. So he writes comparatively little on the subject of prayer. For example, there's no major publication by Stott on prayer that you can easily go to. However, Stott's discipline of prayer is very well known. This was a man who was committed to prayer, and his prayer life infuses all of his writings and, of course, his long and successful ministry. This was a man who, in his early days, back to university at Cambridge, would set his alarm clock at 6 a.m. to pray. In later life, it was an hour earlier at 5 a.m. He would wake up each morning to pray, spend time in reading the Bible. And he would pray for himself, he prayed for his work, he prayed for the world, but he also kept a notebook of people and situations about which he would pray in season and out of season. So if you can imagine that for a moment, that he would have your name, for example, in a book, and for the next 30 years, this man would commit to pray for you. He prayed not only in the morning, but he prayed throughout the day, of course, as part of his work as a vicar and an evangelist. And at the end of the day, before he went to bed, he would kneel once again in prayer. And so all of Stott's work is infused by that commitment to prayer in season and out of season. Prayer is a little bit like eating and exercise. If we want to be physically healthy, we need to eat regularly and we need to exercise regularly. There is no shortcut to this. There is no alternative to this. We simply have to do it. And we need to do it for today. It's of little consolation to know that you ate yesterday or you ate last week when you were hungry today. So it is, if we want to be spiritually healthy, we need to pray. And there is no alternative. There is no shortcut. We simply have to do it. For Stott, prayer was part of a highly disciplined life, which included not only time for prayer, but time for exercise, time for sufficient sleep, time for hobbies. It is well known how much of an avid birdwatcher Stott was. And of course, time for friendships, which included time for a great deal of laughter. And it is that disciplined life which enabled him to undertake the tremendous amount of work that he undertook. Indeed, I suspect that Stott was a little bit of a workaholic, which was able to be sustained by that highly disciplined life rooted in prayer. For Stott, we are a whole people, a psychosomatic union with physical needs, psychological needs, spiritual needs, and social needs. And prayer was the means of sustaining all of those needs. For example, Stott says, it is impossible to pray for someone without loving them, and impossible to go on praying for them without discovering that our love for them grows and matures. Indeed, he goes on to say that prayer is the very way that God himself has designated that we express our confidence in him and our humble dependence on him. I'm persuaded that Stott was able to have that largesse of vision, that confidence to seek nothing less than the evangelism of the whole world, and the capacity to exercise a ministry which had an impact across all 5 continents, not primarily because he was a man of extraordinary gifts, though he was, not primarily because he lived at an extraordinary time, though he did, and not primarily because through the providence of God he had access to extraordinary teachers and mentors and privileges, though all of those are true, but rather primarily because he was a man committed to the simple disciplines of prayer. I want you to imagine what God might be able to do in you and through you if you, like John Stott, committed yourself to being one of God's people of prayer. Imagine it.